1, 2, 3.
Are you a corrupt politician? Or am I being redundant?
Well, she sneaks around the world from Virginia to Carolina. She's a sticky finger toucher from Berlin down to Belize. Take you for a ride. There's no bus to China. Tell me where in the world is
John Saunders.
there's only South Korea, baby, honey, cause where you come from, rest me the green line, feel me, singing the blues. I will be ever Arkansas, still, the beat come from a jungle. Tell me where in the world is
John Saunders.
she go from Nashville to Norway, Hot Air to Zimbabwe, Chicago to Czechoslovakia, and back to Afghanistan and Pakistan and Scandinavia, and just pick 'em up down under and go big pocket burden. It's a misdemeanor when she's over me from Diva. Tell me where in the world is
John Saunders.
tell me where in the world. Come on, tell me where can she be? Botswana to Thailand, Milan via Amsterdam, Bali to Bali, Ohio. Oh, whoa, ooh, the cheese. The cheese. Monday through Friday at 5. She flies around the globe and jumping from every nation. She's a double-dealing diva with a taste for flavoring. Her itinerary started with moving violations. Tell me where in the world is
John Saunders.
tell me where in the world is where in the world is. Tell me where in the world is where can she be? Where in the world is
John Saunders.
watch your back.
Hi, welcome back to the show. I don't know why I keep saying welcome back to the show. I mean, really, each episode is different. But welcome back to the show. I'm Nate Taves, your rather unfortunate host. This is Moving Violations, Episode 7, fully 2011, for bullying, or bully for bullying. Basically, this is kind of an odd episode for me. It's partially a Time Is Everything episode in as much as what I'm saying to you now is a Time Is Everything kind of story, but it's a Moving Violations episode that was originally a movie case episode. Let me explain. Basically, I am friends with Thomas Sawyer and his wife Sarah, formerly Watson, now Sawyer, and Thomas's brother Jonathan Sawyer. Hence why I've had them on these podcast episodes for a while now, doing the movie case episodes and or the Time Is Everything episodes. But sometimes life gets in the way of things, and that's the simple way to put it. Essentially, I'm not sure of the details on this, and I'll grill Thomas on this in the holiday podcast this year, so stay tuned for that in December. But yes, by the way, this is November. Comes into play. I saw Thomas and Sarah in September for my birthday. We got together the weekend after, and then it went into October after Thomas's birthday for getting together. And we did a podcast then that you probably have heard by now if you're a avid listener. If not, check it out. It's called Time Is Everything, Episode 15, Thomas's Wedding Edition 3 podcast. and it's on YouTube. So it is Thomas's Wedding Edition Part 2 and Thomas's Wedding Edition Part 1. That was, my joke was the Hanover trilogy for me. That's a partial joke because there was drinking involved, but be that as it may. I'd like to get back to before episodes, but that's another story for another time. Possibly Thomas's cousin get her in on the story of the wedding, since she had an intricate part in it, as you heard or might hear in the Thomas's Wedding Edition 3. So we did that podcast, and we said, okay, we're going to get together in November. We're going to do a podcast about the movie Bully 2011, which factors into this particular episode, and bullying, because Thomas and Jonathan, in a way, have been bullied by professors or teachers, and so have I, but I've also been bullied by fellow students, which is kind of interesting. So that was kind of the original idea of the podcast that I'm doing now, and I was originally supposed to have help with that, i.e. Thomas, Jonathan, and Sarah. Due to extenuating circumstances, there was a shot at doing it with just Jonathan, Sawyer, and myself, but that didn't make a lot of sense given that he likes to be silly, and this is more of a serious story, as in being in the Moving Violation series, as opposed to, let's say, Shooting the Ball, or the Movie Case series, or the Time Means Everything series, where we kind of poke fun at life's shitty events, or sometimes wonderful events, like weddings, or new relationships, or whatever. So, here's the thing. As I say, we're talking about getting together to do this, and Thomas texted me, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, and said, I can't get together in November. Something came up, and I have to be in Connecticut the day after Thanksgiving for some gathering or another with Sarah, his wife. So I will not be able to get together. Let's push it till December. This is all Thomas talking. I have gum surgery on the 18th of December, so maybe that weekend would be good. I'll be at my parents' house. We can get together. Okay. That was my response. Okay. So that became the story of, okay, now I can still possibly get together with Jonathan Sawyer because he'll be back from Arizona to do his Thanksgiving with his parents. And I'm still pushing to have that happen. It's just, it became a, how do I want to handle this bullying thing? Because the bullying thing could have been funny if I was able to talk to different people about it, have a roundtable discussion about the movie and life events pertaining there too. Unfortunately, that is not the case, and I could always refer you back to old episodes in the series, but being a stickler for detail, wanting to bounce things off of what's in the movie versus what happened to me and whatnot, I decided that a new episode was best. So it went from the original idea of being a movie case episode and I was touring it with a movie case slash, great, the phone's ringing, movie case slash, um, movie violations episode. But that gets a little bit complicated because then I have to switch episodes about halfway through. So it's kind of like, well, that gets a little bit dicey when you're trying to juggle 3 or 4 different people talking about bullying in various forms and how it pertains to the movie and so forth and so on. So that got a little complicated. And then when Thomas said, can't get together in November, it was like, okay, well, I could do this with Jonathan Sawyer, but given that, as you've heard on other episodes, that tends to be kind of funny, it was like, okay, well, we can't do that. Don't get me wrong, it would be fun to have a funny episode talking a little bit about bullying, but that's just different than what I had in my head mapped out for this. And it's nothing against Jonathan Sawyer. Robin is a great guy and very funny, but just didn't seem to kind of gel for this thing. So then I toyed around with the idea of asking my parents to do it, but extenuating circumstances again, and the short version of that is there's some changes going on at Wendy's. My dad's wrapped up in the stuff there, and being super busy trying to continue to crank out good work for Wendy's turns into I don't really have time for this kind of thing, even though he does, but it would be tight to try to squeeze it in November. And I'll get into why in a second, but then there's my mom who's got a few different ailments at the moment, which is another story altogether that I'm not going to get into here. So long story short, I wound up with just me doing this podcast. Long story short, I just killed 10 minutes and a half. So, what I want to get to is the point of this is a movie violations episode. Talking about a movie, but then also talking about civil rights violations as it pertains to bullying from fellow students and teachers and administrators in academia, both in Massachusetts and in Vermont, in my case. On top of that, I can tell you quick time is everything. Couple of notes here. Aside from my monologue that I just did on the litany of issues that came up around this podcast, my dad and I are going to be seeing Andrew Dice Clay in concert on Saturday, the 15th of November, which is 3 days from now, at the time of this recording, and 2 days from now by the time you hear it. So anyway, it's going to be interesting. Dice is a funny guy. I can't take that away from him. He was a big comic at one time, and he's got a pretty good thing going now with his comeback, as he's calling it, between Entourage, the Woody Allen movie, and now Martin Scorsese film, and his book, The Filthy Truth, that he wrote with David Ritz. And that just came out in hardcover. I bought a copy for myself, and I will be reading it soon. I also got a copy for my godfather for Christmas. Shh, don't tell anybody. So that's, that'll stop somebody. But anyway, that's what I'm up to right now at the moment, is going to see Dice. So I will be talking a little bit about that on the next Movie Kiss episode of my dad, which is going to be gangster films and jumping from the pier of Jersey Boys, which isn't really a gangster film, but it is in a way, and we'll get into that in that podcast. But there will also be films talked about, like the Godfather saga, the Godfather 3 theatrical films, the Godfather saga being a separate film that was made compiling 3 of them at various points, mostly the first 2. And then, of course, there is Angels with Dirty Faces, White Heat, Public Enemy, Little Caesar, Al Capone, Capone, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, The Untouchables, there's Scarface, both versions of that, the 32 and 83 version. And what else? Dillinger, Capone, Public Enemies, a whole bunch of things. That's a whole different sheet. That's why you hear me going, because I'm trying to pull out ones that are quick to get to. So that's the gangster podcast, TBD when that will happen, but that's going to come up. So we'll talk a little bit about the Dice thing there, and then we'll talk about the Dice thing again at the holiday podcast, which I'm doing in December with Thomas, his wife Sarah, Thomas's brother Jonathan, and myself. And that'll be the Your Type Pod 2014, subtitled TBD, possibly. I don't know. We could do it without a subtitle this year. Who knows? Of course, now that I said that, I could also change that, but that's another story altogether. So, that is kind of all the stuff that's going on right now, coming up, etc. Also this month you will hear on November 23rd, or 24th, there's going to be the podcast going up, which is Time Is Everything, episode 16, 1 year later, still not easy, rest in peace, Mercedes Kearney. In other words, she's been gone 1 year. I don't want to get too much into that right now, because I get a little weepy thinking about it. And I do miss her greatly. Hence why I'm doing the podcast. But again, that's another for another time. So I'm going to stop rambling here on this inane what's going on with me now, what's coming up thing, because I got a few things to get into here. I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can. I know I'm monologuing right now, driving you nuts with my voice and hearing these plugs and stupid, get on with the show shit stuff that you're thinking. So that's about as much short as I'm going to do in this episode, I think. Unless I get really mad while I'm talking, but that's another story. So, and there's a few funny stories for when I do the holiday podcast with Thomas, Sarah, and Jonathan Sawyers. It's some updates about some people I've talked about before, like Julia Barnacle and stuff like that. Um, so it'll be interesting. So to jump in with 2 feet into the deep end of the pool and pretend that I don't have floaties on. Uh, Bully, 2011, PG-13 film on Blu-ray and DVD. However, it was rated R at one point, but it was cut for home video release from the original R rating so that they could um, release it so that people can see it. The younger people can see it because they said, oh, you got violence of people getting their head bashed in, you got language, so forth and so on. And it was really hard for that. And they said, okay, well, we got to trim it down. So they trimmed it down to a PG-13. So it's on home video, it's PG-13. It's the only way you can get it on home video. Maybe if you're in the industry, you can get the R-rated cut. I don't know, but the publicly available cut for home video, as far as I know, is PG-13. The Weinstein brothers are Harvey and Bob Weinstein are the producers of the film. In other words, they helped get it distribution. It was nominated for an Oscar, I believe, or at least a Golden Globe, and I don't believe it won. I think it went to something else that year somehow. But as a film, Bully is very good, and if you have any experience with bullying, tough to watch. Um, it's hard to describe as a film because it's a documentary, so you want to say the characters this, the characters that, and it's not characters, it's actual people. So let me put it this way. The film shows some kind of a resolution that things may or may not get better for the people who are being bullied, and they show footage within the film to uh, people at the school trying to make it better and so forth and so on. It's again brutal to watch if you know anything about bullying, but it's very well done. Cinematography is pretty good. The story, which I guess is organic according to the filmmakers, was very easy to follow. Again, tough to watch if you're at all familiar with bullying. Um, I will say this as a clear, concise review. Good movie, definitely worth a look. Needs to be available to the public the way that it is in the PG-13 cut to allow kids to see it and go with, maybe we need to stop bullying people because it's pretty bad. But I don't see that happening because it's human nature to pick on things that are different than you and analyze them and deal with them in ways that aren't always tasteful. I myself have gone through that with my parents. I've gone through that with um, schools, and I've gone through that with peers or fellow students at these schools that I've gone to, or recreational groups, or whatever that I've been a part of. It's it's a tough thing. Um, at the time that Bully came out, there was a lot of um, PSAs done, public service announcements done, where celebs like the cast of House or the cast of Modern Family or whatever would get up in front of the cameras, and then it was scripted for the purposes of keeping it short, but then say, don't worry about bullying. We know it's tough, but it does get better. I am here to tell you horseshit. It does not get better. You have to make it better for yourself. And if that means that you sit there and you take it because you're not a fighter, you don't want to fight back, then, that's your thing. If it means that you need to get an advocate in there to talk to a authority figure that's willing to do something about it, then that's, something else that you gotta do. If it means that you fight back and get in trouble that way, that's another thing. But it doesn't get better on its own. You have to make it better in some way. I personally do not advocate violence begetting violence, but I recognize that it is a part of the world. So I'd be an idiot not to point it out. I also wanted to point out that I was talking to my dad about this podcast and I said, how am I going to do this aside from this obvious monologuing that I'm doing? I said, how am I going to do this? My dad said, well, you can branch off in a bunch of different directions and you can talk about how some people consider women getting pulled over by a cop just because they're pretty, so that the cop can get their phone number or know where she lives or works or whatever. Uh, some people consider that bullying, and there's cops pulling over blacks just because they're black. Again, with hang-up of his generation, not mine. As far as I know, I'm not saying it doesn't still happen, but that idea made me uncomfortable, but I wanted to share it as these are a few thoughts that were shared with me about talking about bullying in this podcast. And yes, some of that can be bullying depending on your perspective on things. But the kind that I want to get into, there's also domestic violence stuff that was suggested to me. It's like, I don't want to get into that. I am not a licensed psychiatrist, social worker, teacher, medical doctor, anything. So it's inappropriate for me to be talking about that, other than I'm against it. But domestic violence relationships do have bullying aspects to it, like don't you dare do this or I'll knock you on or whatever, coming from either partner. And then somebody gets scared and they don't talk or whatever. So that's as far as I'm going in that direction. I'm mentioning these things to say that there were a lot of ideas thrown on the table for how to talk about bullying, but the kind of bullying I want to talk about is if by students to other students, as in the film, and by teachers and administrators towards students. I'm going to do this all very quickly, so it may sound a little bit rehearsed, but it's not. I just know these stories from my life too well to really do them a elongated form, which I could very easily do. Anyway, look, if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I have been bullied by people in Vermont. Heidi Berkowitz, or should I say Fuckowitz, That was a favorite that somebody had, so I figured I'd repeat it. That's the worst word I'm going to use. And then there's, Jane Sanders. There's Karen LePan, who proctored a test for me on computers and deducted points from my 100% score on that test because she had to proctor it for me, so they were penalizing me for my disability. That was fun. Barry Snyder, who is not a bad guy overall, but he said something pretty stupid to me, which was that I couldn't use a digital camera in a film production class because it wasn't fair to the other students. And that was the reason that he gave for not allowing the accommodation of using a digital camera in a film 2 class. And I said, well, you got a point there. I have a learning disability that I asked for so that I couldn't drive, couldn't navigate very well, and so I'd have a technological leg up on everybody in class. Here's your sign. That caused him to smile because I think he realized how dumb that statement was, but it is what it is. What can I say? In case anybody's wondering, just took a sip of ginger ale to wet my whistle so I can keep talking at this insane pace of going. So then there's Art Hessler, there's Sarah Milton, Nora Mitchell, Jane Sanders. There's my high school principal and vice principal, Judith Valancourt and Kathy Barad. Or Judy Valancourt and Kathy Barad. So there are a few people, and a couple of high school teachers. And a couple of other teachers at Burlington College. So, and of course there's the Office of Civil Rights issues that you heard about in this series up to this point. Some of this is going to be a rehash for you if you've heard these other episodes, so don't be surprised if that's what you wind up with. However, for those who haven't heard it before, I'll tell the stories briefly as I knock through them. So let's start with when I was in school, in preschool. There was a teacher by the name of Nancy McQuiggan, and for one reason or another, I was annoying her or something that day, and I don't know why. I don't remember this very well, other than she locked me in a closet for a little while. It might have been like 5 minutes or something, but I was in the closet, and I just remember being very scared because it was in the dark by myself, and she wasn't opening the door. And that scared me. And she was kind of a bully of, shut up and, whatever else. And so she got dismissed from the place, as she should have been. But I just remember not liking her, and being bullied by her. So I was bullied from a very early age. Start there. So that happened when I was in preschool, kindergarten. I didn't go to first grade. I stayed back a year in kindergarten, then moved to Southborough, Mass from Arlington, Mass, and wound up in second grade. I had a teacher, Miss Fisher. She was nice and what have you. Very okay thing, except for I was being bullied by an Asian kid, Asian American kid, and another ethnicity kid. I can't place what kind in my memory or in my notes because it was so long ago and I'm not very good at discerning by skin color. And there wasn't any hint of accent on either of these kids. I'm just going with what was readily identifiable from people's memories. And the ethnicity has nothing to do with it. I mean, it could have just as easily been a regular white kid, you know, or a black kid, or Puerto Rican. It doesn't matter. Point is, I got bullied by a couple of kids on the bus, and they were, calling me names. Hey, my mother's a whore, all that fun stuff. So there was that when I was in second grade. And I took my mom going to the principal after about a week of it, or a week or two of it, and the principal of the school called them in, had some stern words with them, and then said, okay, that won't happen anymore and stuff. And I said a couple of things to the guys like, hey, what the hell, kind of thing, taunting them a little bit back, because that's kind of how I deal with things. And they didn't do anything to me, so I was, happy, and that was that. Now, if we jump to, I believe it was fourth grade, there was this guy, Julian Lamb, another fellow student, who said to me, hey, it was a snowy day, snow on the ground, there's ice on the pavement, there's ice under the snow. I'm walking along the edge of a snowbank, and he came up to me, this after I saw him cracking somebody else's head into the pavement. He turned to me and goes, hey, can I hit your head into the pavement? I said, I'd rather you wouldn't. I have a headache as is. He then said, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. It's true. He then said, well, can I throw you into the snowbank? I said, I'd rather you wouldn't. He goes, please. I said, no, I'd rather you wouldn't. So he said, okay. They grabbed somebody else and threw them into the snowbank. So again, I'm not making any of this up. This is stuff that happened. So that was that, and I was having a hard time with the teachers. Telling me to pick up the pace. I'm slowing down everybody. I'm a pain in the ass to teach because I don't understand some of the math that's being taught, or I don't understand some language things, and I struggle with reading comprehension and stuff. So I got that kind of bullying from teachers. In elementary school. Oh, and then I went to Willow Hill, which was at that point just a high school. But I entered in as a middle school, late elementary school, early middle school student. And the next year they turned into middle school, high school. So I went through that, and I was not very popular with students there. Some people liked me, some people didn't. There are stories of me going after people physically for picking on me because of my height and stuff. I was only about 5 feet tall at the time, to be fair. I'm now 5'3¼ inches tall. But, when you're called shrimp, short stuff, midget, freak, stuff like that, it's not fun. So, people would pick on me. You're a small dick, you're small, so forth and so on. Again, I'm not trying to be vulgar here, folks. This is what people were saying to me. So, that was that school. Now, in an odd turn, the teachers weren't really bad with the exception of one in particular, Melanie. And now, Melanie was an English teacher, and she was just a witch, or something that rhymes with it. She just never liked anything I wrote, deducted points for spelling, which I was terrible at because nobody was really teaching me spelling. It was like you either know this or you don't, and nobody was really teaching it. So it wasn't like, here, let me tell you how to spell that word so you can spell it. It's just, that's wrong. Go look it up. Well, if I don't know how to spell it, how am I going to look it up? Figure that one out. So she was that kind of a teacher. And she loved Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra, so she was okay in the regards of like she had good taste in movies, but she was just a witch as a teacher goes, and she was just really mean, and she and I butted heads for the entire year, and then she finally left at the end of the year. It was like, oh, thank God, I don't have to deal with her again. There are teachers that said, things like, oh, well, you have to say, hey, well, there was a teacher that said, well, you have to say, God is Allah, Muhammad is the Prophet. In order to be a Buddhist, and you need to say that in order to ace a quiz, and if you don't, you're going to have X amount of points deducted from your grade. So I had one Buddhist teacher do that to me. That was fun. And I got the points off of my grade because I refused to say it because I wanted to kind of remain the way that I was, not Buddhist. Again, no big deal in the grand scale of things, but the little things count as bullying. So that was bullying. Then, Judy Valancourt, who was the head of the school, just didn't like me because I was a little troublemaker trying to, feistily get through school, and I wasn't very good academically. And I was more creative, but in the realm of like witty comebacks, being sarcastic and all. I was being told, sarcasm is the devil's tool. You're not allowed to use sarcasm. When I use sarcasm, because that's the kind of humor that I like from Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, or Harry W.C. Fields, etc. When I use sarcasm, they would deduct points from my grade. People were told to do that by Judy. They were told to deduct points from my grade. So I was being bullied from the principal of the school. Now, the principal of the school then brought in somebody by the name of Kathy Varad. Kathy Varad furthered that, where it was like, you're only allowed to read certain books, and I had to fight to get anything that I wanted to read onto a reading list, because it was things like, you can read, oh God, not even like a regular curriculum. It was like, Captain Underpants or something dumb like that, and that would be reading. But I wanted to read things like about Al Capone, or I wanted to read about Sherlock Holmes. I wanted to read the Red Wall series by Brian Jacques. I wanted to read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Moby Dick, etc. So I had to fight to get the classics into the reading curriculum for being able to read, including Catcher in the Rye, which is a standard in late middle school, early high school reading. I had to fight to get that onto the curriculum, so you're welcome, Willow, for those who still go there and what have you. So there's that. So I wound up with that stuff. Now Twilight's on there, go figure. Anyway, so I went through that battle with her, and these people were doling out punishment for things like if you said Buck Privates, which is the title of an Abbott and Costello film, you weren't allowed to buy from the school store for a couple of days because you said a naughty phrase. Well, I can't help it if I'm telling you I just watched this Abbott and Costello film, Buck Privates. What am I supposed to do? I watched this Abbott and Costello film about the army. What's the title? I can't tell you that. Why not? Because you're going to put me in this red notebook and not allow me to buy from the school store for a couple of days. It's dumb. At that age, you just think, I'm just telling somebody something. You get went up in a stupid little red notebook and told you can't buy from the school store for a couple of days because she said Buck Privates or something to that effect. So there's that stuff. I was having a physical altercation to that point with my dad. And my dad's never understood my disability. He never claims to have, or claims to have, but he doesn't. Never has, never will. One of the great disappointments of my life, and I gotta live with it. So, I got some bullying from him, and I still do. But I fight back now verbally, and he doesn't like it. So, tough shit. Anyway. Tough shit, tough love, whatever you want to call it, same thing. So, Judy Valancourt just kept going after me, and then she finally went too far with the head of the board at the school and got dismissed, and, it was like, oh, she's stepping down. Well, no, she got dismissed. Let's say it as it is. So thankfully she got out of there. Then we had this other person, Rhonda Taft Farrell, come in, and I had no problems with her because at that point it was just like, let me just finish up, get the fuck out of here, go to college, which I was forced to do because if I didn't, I was going to be disowned, according to my dad, and he claims that he never said that now, but that's a total lie, I can tell you that, straight up. So, continuing on in this no holds barred side of things. As I say, the bullying in the film, Bully talks about with students. So my next encounter with bullying from students comes in high school, where this guy Andrew Sylvester was bullying this girl, Jamie Hussey, now Szymanski. That was interesting because they also were dating, but then not dating because he was picking on her, so forth and so on, and it's turned into relationship issues in recent years where he's tried to date her, tries to get me to ask her out. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. So there's that stuff. I told that story on it at Timing's Everything episode early on in the series. Go listen to it. It's kind of funny. So there's that stuff. Now, I get out of Willow Hill. I go to college in Burlington, Vermont, at Burlington College. Now, at Burlington College, I had to deal with Barry Snyder, who I said did the denying me access to a digital camera, claiming that that was kind of dumb. So there's that story. Just the way I told it. I had to deal with this woman, Lloyd Gagne, who was deducting points from me because I had a hard time navigating around a slippery slope that was the backyard of the school heading down to the waterfront at the college, and navigating an icy landscape in general to walk to and from a school that we had to volunteer in because of the name of the class, Peace and Justice. Well, there's no peace and no justice in this case. Plus, can you explain to me why you would spend 15 minutes of a class talking about Black Man's Girth? anyway, um, so that was like Kanye. Then I had a teacher for like Champlain and natural history. I can't remember the woman's name, but God, she was a nightmare. She did not understand a damn thing I said to her. She was denying me accommodations and all sorts of things. The uh, the person who was in charge of the accommodations was always delivering the accommodations late, so I wasn't getting them on time, so I was getting harassed by the teachers and trying to ask for accommodations, and then finally show up like 3/4 of the way through this semester, and it's like, where the fuck was this when I needed it? And then I needed to re-up the next semester with a new set of teachers. And it was always on me to ask for the accommodations that weren't allotted to me because I didn't have the letters from this woman who was supposedly doing the work but wasn't until very late in the game. Blah, 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 blah. She finally got dismissed. Somebody else came in after I had problems with that. This guy, Steve Kaplan, gave me accommodations because the school wasn't giving them to me. Then the school tried to blame me for everybody else's accommodations being late when they were the ones that were bullying me about stuff, including having Art Hessler, the Dean of Academics, and saying to me, we're not going to dumb down our curriculum for you. If you don't believe me, I can get my mom on this thing. At some point, she was there. She had access in that meeting to hearing that statement. Nora Mitchell and Sarah Mell. Sarah Mell being the Director of Student Services after Mike Oler left, and Nora Mitchell being my advisor. Nora Mitchell said to me when I first was applying to the school, you don't write at the level of a college student, but I think we can help you overcome that problem. Great introduction. Sarah Mell and Nora Mitchell both did the LD show, and I thank them profusely for that. However, when they were furthering the wrongdoing at the school with denying me accommodations or telling me to suck it up and just deal with it, from the harassment that I was getting from the likes of Karen LePan, or again, nice person, but again, deducted points for proctoring the test. Barry Snyder, Art Hessler, Jane Sanders, so forth and so on. A lot of it was just suck it up and deal with it, and then the school was literally paying off students with money and jobs and so forth and so on to make it look like I was the only one that was having problems with them, and they were claiming, oh, we're bending over backwards for you, so forth and so on. They weren't doing jack, you know what. So there's that. Now, Casey will attest to that. Casey was being bullied as well. So was Mike Emholt to some extent because he was in with me and Casey on Burlington College Presents, which, as I said in earlier parts of the series, was canceled because of really no good reason, and because I started snooping around, finding out that there were other corrupt things going on, like doctoring the student funds, etc. So they said, "Oops, gotta go." And also because of my disability stuff with them. So that happened. Now, on top of all that, if that isn't bad enough, now I should mention the Jane Sanders thing very quickly. When I at the end of it all, when I was getting out, last time I was going to be in there, I set up a meeting with her. I said, I'm going to have a meeting in a week's time with Art Hessler, Nora Mitchell, Sarah Mell, and I want you to be there so we can talk about civil rights violations. She's tried to brush me off by saying, Nathan, I don't think you understand what it takes to run a college. I said, I don't think you do either. The look on her face was, if you've seen Red Dragon, Anthony Hopkins, when he's told his insane behavior, Gordon has a look on his face like, well, you got me there. That was the look on her face. So there's that. Then I had the media a week later. I pointed out all these problems to Art Hessler, Sarah Melling, Nora Mitchell. Promises were made to change things, and shortly thereafter, Art Hessler left. And Jane was ousted. And then they got another woman in, and now that woman's been ousted. So they've got issues at that place. Not the least of which is that they're not paying back the money that they took from a student endowment fund to pay their general bills. Hoorah! So that's the reason I'm going to college, in case anybody's wondering. Now, on top of that, if that wasn't bad enough, while I was there, I called the Office for Civil Rights because I said I got a problem, I need to file. They tell you all these paperwork things. I was doing a course for learning about civil rights laws, and Steve Kaplan was proctoring the course for me. So he was, saying, okay, let's meet around X amount of times, and it was phone calls and video chats, stuff like so on. So we got through it all, and I learned that you're supposed to file with the Office for Civil Rights. There's one in D.C. that handles the whole West Coast, and there's the one in Boston that handles the whole East Coast. So here's the thing. I went and filed with the Office for Civil Rights in the Boston chapter, and let me tell you firsthand, the system is broken. They they say, oh well, when is a good time to talk, and then they call you any time but when you said it was a good time to talk. So, word of advice, if you ever get asked when's a good time to talk, just say any time, and then good luck. So there's that. They said that retaliation is illegal. However, you can get retaliated against by the school or organization that you file against, because they can file against you for filing against them, which is essentially legalized retaliation. Anybody think that one through? Also, they were kind of bullying me with words like, you're wasting our time. Why are you wasting our time with this? You have no case. So forth and so on, for a number of phone calls. And then I said, that's it, I'm done, fucking forget about it. When they said, you have to let us publish your ID in order to get anything done. Well, I don't want my ID known to the school because they're already doing shit against me. And that's just going to make it worse. And they said, well, we can't conduct an investigation unless you give up your name. Well, then why would you say in your paperwork that you can file anonymously? So the fact that they say you can file anonymously, horseshit. You cannot file anonymously. You can also not tell them when is good time to talk, because they will not pay attention to that. And on top of that, they will be belittling about your problems and stuff. So at the end of the day, they said to me, you know what? Yeah, you don't have a case, blah, blah, blah. I said, fine, fuck it, I'm out. Good night. And then they said, wait. We think you have a case. You could be on something big here. Now you tell me. Now, after all the shit I've been through with the school, and you tell me I have a case. So, that happened. I don't know how many other people, but I can't imagine that I'm not in a hundreds category here. But I don't know how many other people have run into this, but this has happened. I've been bullied for the better part of my life by somebody, be it my father, be it the teachers, be it administrators at college level, be it the Office for Civil Rights. The system that we have to protect civil rights is broken. The system of dealing with bullies is broken because the system that's in place for dealing with bullies is in itself bullying. I don't know how many times I can say this, so I'm just going to say it the way that I just did. So that's my long rant about bullying and about college and stuff. And, go check out the movie Bully. Keep this stuff in mind. Try to make it better for your kids if you have them. Try to make it better for your brothers or sisters if you have them. They're younger than you and they're having problems with bullying. Try to make it better for them. Believe them when they say that they're having problems. Don't write it off. And then on top of that, whatever you do, when you find out that the system is broken and that the people that are supposed to be in places to help you aren't going to help you, take matters into your own hands in a non-violent way if possible. And this will mean that it will turn into something like a verbal Dirty Harry. Are you feeling lucky today, punk? Bastardization of the quote, but you get the idea. So, there's that. There's my rant. So, with that, I'm Nick Taves. Thanks for listening. This has been Movie Violations, Episode 7. Bully for Bullying. Up next, we will have The Time Is Everything, Episode 16, 1 year later, Still Not Easy. Rest in Peace, Mercedes Kearney podcast where I talk about my late friend Merce. Excuse me, Merce. Sorry for that. Excuse me, listeners. Sorry for that. That was a cough. I will also then have a gangster film podcast with my dad where I'll talk about the classic gangster films and Jersey Boys, which is a great film, so keep an eye out for that and an ear open for it. And then in December, we've got the All-Star from the series of podcasts, the Holiday Yuletide Pod with Thomas Sawyer, Sarah Sawyer, and Jonathan Sawyer. And who the hell knows what will come up on that, but we'll have what's the latest with them. We'll have the funny stories, updates on Julia Barnacle, disability stuff, and all the other murdering mayhem with the animals around here, and trespassing neighbor stories. So look forward to that, and have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll speak to you again on the 23rd of November, talking about my friend Merce. Thank you for listening.
Monday through Friday at 5. She climbs around the globe and children from every nation. She's a double-dealing diva with a taste for bravery. Her itinerary started with moving violations. Tell me where in the world is
Aaron Saunders.
Tell me where in the world is Tell me where in the world everywhere Jackson be.
Aaron Saunders.
Watch your back!
Are you a corrupt politician? Or am I being redundant?